Welcome, everyone, to TYT Community here on the TYT Network. The show paneled, of course, by members and fans of the Young Turks. I am your host, Jeff Waldorf, here today with my co-host, Sean Fitzgerald. No big panel today. Hopefully we'll have a bigger panel next week. But I want to thank everybody here for joining us on the live stream. I really appreciate you guys watching. We've got a lot of great stories today. We've got some serious social justice stories involving things like Detroit and how they're cutting off water in Detroit. Some serious stories there. Some LGBT stories. Actually, some good news for once. And we've got some weird stories. Is the Republican Party being replaced by robots? Kind of a weird story. And once again, we've got a good social justice story that's going to be presented by Sean. So stick around. Lots and lots of great stuff. And I want to start out with actually some good news about the LGBT community. In another sign that the political winds are continuing to change on the issue of same-sex marriage, Senator Susan Collins has officially thrown her support towards marriage equality, signaling a change of course in our politics towards social justice. Now, Collins, who is a Republican in Maine, is the newest in the trend of Republicans coming out in favor of marriage equality and joining the rest of us here in the 21st century. She's joining the ranks of Republicans like Mark Kirk of Illinois, Rob Portman of Ohio, and Lisa Murkowski of Arkansas in publicly throwing their support behind this issue. Now, Mainers are pretty progressive on this, overwhelmingly passing a measure to legalize same-sex marriage all the way back in 2012, which overturned a 2009 ban. So it's not only the right thing to do in her case, but it's also the politically expedient thing to do. Now, a poll conducted by the Public Policy Polling of Mainers on this issue shows that 54% of the people support marriage equality and only 30% oppose. And polls conducted since 2011 have seen the opposition drop and support rise every year. The 2013 poll was actually 5 percentage points less than the national average. So in my opinion, it won't be too much longer before more Republicans either embrace marriage equality or begin to lose massively because of this issue, as it sort of becomes an albatross around the necks of politicians that run on anti-gay platforms. Now, Sean, I want to get your opinion on this. What do you think? Are more Republicans going to start to join the pro-gay, or are they going to switch over? And what kind of difficulties do you think they're going to face in trying to do that, if they're trying to do that?
I mean, this is a pretty interesting trend. It's a trend that I've actually been wrong on. I thought that the Republicans were going to move towards a half measure, where basically they would say, if your state legalizes same-sex marriage, that's totally cool. But, if I'm the senator from Mississippi or I'm a Republican senator, I don't want it nationally. But this is actually a great thing. She was ahead in the polls, I believe, before she came out for this. I get it. It still is a politically expedient, evolving, just like the president's. But it's a great thing. This battle is pretty much over. I know we're not halfway through all the states, but we're getting close enough. There's a case that could make it to the Supreme Court. I think the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that the states couldn't prohibit gay marriage. So it's a great sign.
Mm-hmm. Now, for some of the people who are actually commenting in the YouTube chat. Some of them are saying that, well, yeah, a lot of people who switch over do it because they have family members. And while that's true of Rob Portman, I'm not entirely sure if Suzanne Collins has any family members that have recently come out as gay or anything like that. And as far as I know, she's actually been pretty good on this issue, even dating back to 2004 and 2006, when she refused to pass a constitutional amendment saying that marriage is between one man and one woman, in Maine. So, I mean, as far as on this issue, I think she's actually fairly, I hate to say it, progressive, because she's actually more of a moderate Republican than a lot of the Republicans that we've seen.
I mean, she kind of has to be. She's a northeastern Republican. Like that's like the theory that you have to be moderate on at least some social issues. I remember
Right.
when Giuliani was the mayor of New York City, he was a pro-life mayor, a pro-choice mayor, which kind of killed him in his presidential bid. But like those positions help you in the Northeast because they're more liberal on average. And I don't know. She might have a family member, but we haven't heard about it. It's not like Portman, whose son was gay, and when he found out he wasn't going to be the vice presidential nominee, decided to have this awakening. Like,
Right, and it, I think it was definitely fair also to point out how President Obama, and a lot of politicians somehow just suddenly evolve on the issue. And so, I think it's fair to point that out and point out how like stupid it is. Either you're for it or against it. You don't really evolve on it. And that's where it goes down to the politics of the whole thing, is that, people that are, politicians, and Susan Collins might be one of these people that just kind of go like this and, oh, where's the wind going? Where's the wind? Pro-gay marriage? Totally pro-gay marriage. What are you talking about? I'm definitely pro-gay marriage. But hey, you know what? I'll take it where I can get it. Even if you do have a family member that has recently come out, at least maybe that helps you, even for selfish reasons, it at least helps you get on the right side of history. And
right.
after all, I mean, I guess for me, I'm not too concerned about why they are on the right side of history, as long as you have people that are on the right side of history.
And to be clear, like you can change your position on this. Like you could have that position and then that it should be illegal and change your position. Like you can theoretically evolve for it. It's just funny how politicians tend to evolve right when their poll numbers show that they should evolve. It's like it's magic somehow. But like it's still good. Like it's still a good thing to have it out there. This battle is pretty much over.
Hmm.
Um, the days of the Republicans nominating our candidates, or maybe in the South they'll get away with it, that favor
Right.
that national gay marriage amendment. It looks like that's also going to be over too, which is great. Like that amendment is done. Like we don't they already it's already more than 1/3 of the states or have it legalized. There's no way that's going to happen. So it's a good thing. Welcome to the club, and let's not shower too much hate on her for evolving late.
Right. Well, like I said, to me, I mean, it's important to point out if they're late to the game and why they're late to the game. But it's also, you're right, we shouldn't shower so much hate. We should welcome everyone into the 21st century and say, oh, hey, you're on our side on this issue? Great. We'll take allies where we can, because ultimately, I mean, this is talking about people's freedom to marry the people that they choose, that they love in consensual marriage. So, like, I don't even understand how in 2014 that there are still people against this. Like, I still don't get it, but that's the way. I mean, that's the way our country is, and that's the way our country has, and for lack of a better word, continued to evolve. But big shout out to Indiana, which is one of the most recent states to have their same-sex marriage bans struck down. Remember, we recently talked to one of the candidates that's running for a Senate district, I believe, Patrick Lockhart, and he was definitely pro same-sex marriage. And actually, we talked to him a lot. Our former contributor Jordan French had a great interview. You should check him out on the channel about money and politics. It was a great interview about all these different issues. So definitely check that out. But big props to Indiana for
Right, and
LGBT equality.
they're following Patrick Lockhart's lead to unlock your heart and let in gay marriage.
Clever, sir. Clever.
Thank you.
Where would I be without those clever puns? I wouldn't be anywhere. I'm just always mad that you always get in the puns.
It's a
All
new
right,
day.
so I know this time you're doing all the puns when it's normally my job. We need to get somebody. We need to get Reback hosting so I can start making the puns again. Always being the serious guy. All right. Speaking of serious, got a actually really serious story about Detroit. that I want to dive into, and it might get you a little bit mad. I know it's got me pretty upset, so let's get pissed together. Friday Night Anger. Now, right now, there is a city where thousands of people have no access to running water, and hundreds of thousands could yet lose it. Now, I'm not talking about Iraq, Syria, or any war-torn country. While there is a war going on in this place, it's not fought with bombs or guns. It's fought by politicians and corporations. I'm talking about the once proud city of Detroit, where nearly 150,000 residents, mostly poor people and minorities, are facing shutoffs for the inability to pay a water bill whose costs they've seen rise 119% over the past decade. Now, these shutoffs could potentially impact up to 300,000 Detroiters who have been late on their water bills for over 2 months. Now, the rationale for these shutoffs is that the water department needs to recoup massive losses from non-payment from these delinquent accounts and these citizens whom half belong to the African American community. Now, many of these people have been visited by contractors paid to turn off their water lines. Now, it's no surprise to hear that Detroit is in massive financial trouble. That's, of course, due to many different factors like mismanagement, corruption, white flight, reduced tax revenue, outsourcing, unemployment, and poverty, and other factors. So it would make fiscal sense to many people that in order to recoup some of those losses, the government has to get money back where it can. But it isn't. And I'll explain why. Because when you look deeper into the situation, you'll notice something incredible. Now, according to an article in The Guardian, high-end golf clubs, sports stadiums like the Red Wing Stadium and Ford Football Field, and more than half of the city's commercial and industrial users also owe a large portion of that water bill, about $30 million in total. Now, one of the complaints by residents is that the water department is prioritizing businesses and allowing them more leeway and targeting residents for shutoffs first. Now, the water department actually disputes that claim and says it plans to report the number of business clients that have lost water access, but gave no specifics or no specific timetable to releasing that data other than soon. Now, the Detroit News reported that businesses on average owed more and were much more delinquent on their bills, owing on average $7,700 per business, while the average residential user owed only about $600. Documents also show that non-residential clients make up almost half of what the water department is owed, despite them being less than 7% of total delinquencies. Now, it's obvious that some of these businesses use a lot more water than residences, but 7% of delinquent business accounts make up nearly half of what's owed to the water department. Nearly half. And yet they're sending out people to shut off the residents' water first? No. Let's not go after the businesses. Let's go after the people. Who the fuck cares about the people? Let's go after the masses. The whole reason the water department is trying to settle these accounts is because Detroit is in the middle of bankruptcy. That's right. And this bankruptcy is led by an unelected bureaucrat appointed by Rick Snyder. Against the wishes of our state, by the way, because remember, Michigan voters, and I was one of them, rejected the emergency manager law that allows this guy to be in power, Kevin Orr. But Snyder passed it over, again, overnight, by the way. Under the cover of darkness, he passed another emergency manager law. And now he's using that power to privatize Detroit, starting with the water system. Off and collections business is to make the water department more attractive to private investors. And that's the plan. Usurp democracy to privatize public assets using debt as an excuse. Debt caused by rising prices above what people can afford alongside a massive increase in poverty. And you know what? Too many people are okay with what's happening in Detroit. They deserve it, right? Because they're all poor. They're lazy. They don't work. They're all lazy black people with their welfare. Why should we help them? It's amazing how we're actually okay with shutting off these people's water.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? All the towns that have been taken over by these so-called emergency managers are towns with majority African American populations. Flint, Pontiac, Allen Park, Benton Harbor. These are all poor areas that have been hit hard by the economic problems going on in Michigan, with the loss of our auto industry. And these people have a lack of opportunity and are easy targets for privatization. It's gotten so bad in Detroit with these shutoffs that residents have actually petitioned the United Nations for help. The UN has responded that if these shutoffs continue for people that can prove that they have no ability to pay these bills, that this city would be in violation of basic human rights, the right to water. So here we are, richest country in the world. We've got military bases everywhere. We're the home of the most millionaires worldwide. We have the largest economy. And we cannot even guarantee running water for the poorest among us. Detroit's becoming a third world country even in our own borders. And look, if we let them privatize Detroit, it's over. They've already killed democracy in Michigan. Who's next? Will they start appointing emergency managers in other states? How about entire states that are fiscally insolvent? Oh, I forgot. A lot of those high deficit states are red states. No, we can't do that. Those are proud Republican states, fiscally responsible and filled with freedom. But if you're black and you're from the inner city and you're poor, then obviously you're not allowed the right to self-government. It's fucking grotesque. Sean, take over. I'm pissed.
Well, I mean, there's like, I can understand why theoretically you have to shut people's water off in order to get them to pay, right? A lot of times.
Only if they have the means to pay.
No, but I'm saying a lot of times.
They have the means to pay and they choose not to. That's the only time it's acceptable. If they have the means to pay it and they don't, I can see that you can make an exception and say, okay, we're going to give you a warning. You better start paying. But if you can't afford it, and you could prove that you can't afford it, just like these people in Detroit, there's no way that you should be able to shut off their water. It's common human decency,
right?
To say, look, we're going to provide water to people who can't afford it.
I get what you're saying, but like I can understand, like, you know, and some people, and I guarantee some people will pay at the moment when they come to shut it off. Like, that's just how a lot of people work, and I got that. But if you have a bunch of people that you're going to put without water, like, the amount of damage that you're going to do to your city is far beyond what the delinquent water bills do. And, like, the idea that you mentioned the stadiums not paying their bill, I mean, that could... It doesn't. I don't know how we don't know exactly how past due they are. We just know the amount that they owe. But you assume that a gigantic stadium uses a shit ton of water, so it could be.
They absolutely do.
Yeah, so it could be they're not that far behind compared to like the months that the average person is. Like that could be an issue. We don't know that. But that's not the most insulting thing about this. Emergency manager is appointed by the governor, right? And he's the one who wants the water utility to go collect all these bills. How much is the lease to pump water out of the rivers leading into the Great Lakes of Michigan? Do you know?
No, I don't know the numbers offhand, no.
So the Nestle Corporation makes billions of dollars pumping your water out of your state, and they pay the state of Michigan about $99 a year for their annual lease. So they're giving water away, essentially, to Nestle for them to sell at a price that's more than gasoline is by the gallon. And
and here's the thing about Nestle too. Nestle, if you can remember, CEO of Nestle says, water is not a human right. Water is our right to sell. So essentially they're taking the water, getting almost free water from Detroit, from the Great Lakes, and then they're selling it back to the people at an inflated price. And on top of that, they tell you that no, that's not your water. You don't have a right to water. This isn't your water. This is our water, and we're going to gouge you for it. And if you can't pay it, tough fucking luck. Tough cookies. That's our water.
And by the way, it's totally what that thing is doing is an end around the law. It's actually illegal to pump the Great Lakes of Michigan for water. But they found a loophole, and they're pumping the rivers that feed the Great Lakes of Michigan. So the fact that they're giving water away to a multinational corporation who a few years ago was the most profitable corporation in terms of scale and all factors controlled, and at the same time you're spitting on the people that live there, like this isn't Las Vegas, right? Like this isn't Vegas
Right.
where you have a very limited water supply and it costs a shit ton of money to bring that water in and then serve it to the people, and then if some asshole is running a 3,000-foot fountain and not paying for it, like you go shut his ass off to teach him a lesson. Like this is Michigan. This is one of the largest freshwater reserves in the entire world, definitely in the country. And you're going to give water away on one end, and I say give water away because literally if a bottle of water costs $1, then they have to sell 100 of them to make up their annual cost for the lease that they pay. So they're giving water away at the same time they're taking water away from poor people. And I understand that they don't pay, and I understand you got to try and collect that money. You got to work out payment plans, and I understand that people are assholes and they like to stiff their utility companies. I understand all those things are true. But
But what's also true is the increase in price of water over the last decade that pretty much has doubled. You know, especially in one of the times where people have had the hardest economic time. I live in Michigan, okay? Detroit's like 2 hours away from me, all right? So I have seen firsthand, I've lived here pretty much my entire life, and I've seen firsthand the economic issues that have happened in Michigan. We were bad off before the crash in 2008. We've been bad off for a long time, and now they made it even worse.
And part of the reason that you're paying more for water is because Nestle is taking as much as they can get. Like, so that's decreasing the supply. But like the thing is water from the tap in general is not that expensive. I actually have a unique perspective. I rent and actually don't pay for water. Like I pay for heat and electricity, but I don't pay for cold water. So but it's not that expensive when you break it down. Like if you compare the price of tap water to bottled water, it's not that expensive. But over time, it builds up, and it seems unbelievably cool. Like if you had low rates and you were being stiffed by people, and you really needed that money, and you had to shut down some people in order to get them to pay, then that makes total sense. But
that's not what's happening.
Yeah, you're giving away water, and what you have to look at is how soon after people get their water shut off do they pay the bill. Because if it's like 8 hours, then that means that was some guy trying to stiff you. If it's months, then maybe they really can't pay that. And the thing is, it's also the summer, and that seems unnecessarily more cruel because it's getting hot, and it just doesn't. It's like shutting off people's heat in the winter. Which
actually they did that this year. They actually did that in the winter of 2013. They did shut off people's heat. Thousands of people.
Yeah, that's actually not legal in my state. Like you can't shut down people's heat, electricity.
Well, we have a Republican legislature here. Both the state, the state Congress, the House and Senate, and the governorship are all red.
But I'm actually pretty certain that it's not legal where you are, but the emergency manager can override certain laws to emergency manage.
That's what I'm talking about. Like he's an emergency dictator is what I'm trying to say, and that look, the people in Detroit and in Benton Harbor and Allen Park, all these people, they're majority black, and they've lost their democracy by having to be ruled over by these undemocratically elected emergency managers. And that's incredibly fucked up.
And just the hypocrisy, I just want to repeat it again. $99 for to take your water. Nestle pays, and these people are getting their stuff shut off.
Yeah, look, man, I don't know what's going to happen in this situation, but man, if they privatize the water and if they continue to sell off pieces of Detroit in order to pay, to pay off their debts and deficits, it's fucking over, dude. Like Detroit's already destroyed, and now it's going to be even worse if the corporations take full control of it. And that's what's happening in my state. And it's how do you fight against that, man? It's so difficult. So fucking difficult. Ugh. All right. I gotta move on. It's sad what's happening in my state, man. Fucking sad.
It's your fault too.
It's not my fault.
It's a joke.
I didn't vote for Walker.
We're in a downer moment right now.
I didn't vote for Snyder. I mean, I don't know why, but I always keep thinking like
Snyder.
I always say Walker, but I know Snyder is our governor. They're both the same. They're both fucked up.
I always think
get voted out.
I always think Schnei when I hear that, like snarf. Yeah.
Yeah. But apparently he's one tough nerd. He's just being tough on all the poor black people.
Well, it's really good to be tough on people who can't defend themselves.
Exactly. It's real fucking tough, Snyder.
It makes me feel better too about myself when I beat up on people who can't defend themselves.
Right. All right. So, on to the next story. We gotta get moving. A judge recently told a 21-year-old man convicted of vandalism to go get a real job so he could pay back his restitution faster. Judge Todd Baugh recently sentenced Brandon Terrell to 10 years in custody of the Department of Corrections, and with 5 years suspended, of course, and ordered him to pay $13,000 in restitution for his victims. Now, what did Terrell do? Well, Terrell and a friend named Caleb Powers went on a window shooting spree with a stolen BB gun while drunk driving. So this guy's not exactly an example of good decision making. Now, during the hearing, Terrell apologized for his vandalism spree, and when the judge asked him about how he's going to pay back his victims, he responded that he had a job working at Burger King. All right, so he's got a job. He's working to, pay back his debt to society, right? Well, the judge then asked him, why can't you get a real job? Now, Terrell was making about $9.50 an hour. That's actually over $2 more than the federal minimum wage. And Montana, where this happened, has a state minimum wage of $7.90. So, $9.50 compared to the minimum wage, that's not bad. Anyway, Judge Baugh then told him to go get a real job so that he can pay off his restitution faster. Now, the reason that I actually want to cover this story is not because I feel bad for this guy, but really it's because of the perception of people who work in fast food or work for minimum wage in general. This man is a judge, and to Terrell's credit, he's working and trying to pay off his debt to society. And what the fuck is Judge Baugh doing? Essentially shitting on him because he makes $9.50 an hour. Now, it's also important to mention that Judge Baugh is kind of a dick. He's not a nice guy. He's facing suspension and censure for saying that a 14-year-old rape victim appeared older than her chronological age and therefore was asking to be raped by her teacher. But back to my overall point. At what point is a job a real job? Now, I thought fast food was a job. Conservatives everywhere tell you to work at McDonald's. And I mean, hey, you're trading your labor for money, right? That's a job. Now, apparently not to Judge Baugh. And people like Judge Baugh are the same kind of people that threw apps from McDonald's on Occupy protesters and told them to get a job. Well, what is it? Is minimum wage a minimum wage job a job or isn't it? What about other minimum wage jobs other than McDonald's or Burger King? What about Walmart? Are those real jobs? I thought work was work. I thought the dignity of work was important to you. I don't know. To me, work is work. And look, low-paying service jobs are pretty much all we have left today. We hardly make anything here in America anymore. All of our shit pretty much comes from China. All of our jobs are in India. What the fuck is left? My personal opinion about this guy is that this judge is a dick. And he's so completely disconnected from regular people. Look, and I'm not sitting here defending Terrell either. But hey, at least he's trying to make things right. While your ass is sitting there fighting censure for you telling a 14-year-old that she had it coming. Fuck this guy. I sincerely hope he gets fired from being a judge and has to work at his ass at Burger King. Maybe then he'll actually find out what a real job is. Sean.
Yeah, like, this judge is obviously a bad guy. His past statements on that 14-year-old girl, he said that she was emotionally older than her chronologic age or something awful like that. And he thought that meant it's okay to take advantage of her and have sex with her. So, weird, bad guy, obviously. In this case, I could understand him being a little frustrated, right? Because basically, the reason why he's mad at this kid is not because he cares about vandalism or anything like that. It's that he has to report to court over and over again. And the longer it takes him to report to court, the longer the judge has to do his job. And, you know, when you have a real job as a prestigious judge, you don't want to do it that often. So he's being a bitter man, and like, the kid is an ass, like drunk driving, BB gun shooting people's windows.
Oh, of course.
But like he's got to pay it back.
Of course.
He's
working it.
And he's doing it as fast as he possibly can with his job. He's obviously a decent employee at Burger King if he's making like that kind of wage, which most of them make around 8 on average, right? And you start at the minimum wage, so like, he's gonna do his best. Like, you could like, there's nothing really you could do. It's not like there's a set time limit for him to pay back this 13 grand.
Right.
But like, the judge is an ass, and he's like, it would take me probably a month and a half to pull together my investments and pay $13,000 if my kid did something. What's wrong with you? It's like, why don't you make real money? Why doesn't that guy just become a judge tomorrow? The defendant.
And here's the thing about that, right? I love that mindset of like, what do you mean? I can do it, so can you. Yeah, you know how hard it is to get an actual job when you have a criminal record? It's almost, I'm surprised at Burger King, and maybe he was working at Burger King before that happened, so who knows, right?
Well,
but it's almost impossible for somebody who's been convicted of a felony and misdemeanors in order to get a job.
By the way, what the hell is felony vandalism? Like, I know what it is. It's when you destroy more than $1,000 worth of stuff. But it's a felony to shoot at windows with the BB gun? Like, I get that could put somebody in danger, potentially. I kind of get why that is, but, like...
Our justice system is based on how much monetary damage there is. Not exactly what you do, but how much monetary damage that you cause. So over a certain amount, it's considered a felony. Like, oh, you really broke a lot of expensive stuff, so we're going to give you a felony for it. Well, that doesn't make sense to me either.
Well, that's why my lawyer professor always told me to always steal $999 worth of stuff, because then it's petty theft and not grand larceny. But yeah, look, it's a case of like a guy who made a dumb mistake. Like, he's a dumb, like, I'm gonna say that this guy, the 21-year-old, he's a dumb kid. Right? Yeah. Like, he did something incredibly stupid. He put people in danger. The drunk driving probably.
Right. Definitely.
So he put a lot of people in danger, and he destroyed property. And the property owners, like, I feel bad for them, because it's kind of, the judge is kind of right that if he takes forever to pay them back, then they're not going to get, because of inflation, what they actually put in, like what was actually damaged. But the judge is such a prick, and he's proven to be a prick on so many issues. Like, and it just seems like...
It's less about the particular situation. I think when you step back and look at the overall picture and look at the overall mindset of people like this judge, that's really that's really the problem. Like, oh, you don't make money, you're not worth shit. Go
right.
get a real job.
And the judge is he's such a it's not even like hey, these guys are waiting for you to pay them back, like get to work. It's not even like I feel for the victims. It's I don't think your job is worth anything. I don't think your life is worth anything. Like hurry up.
I don't think what you do is actually considered work.
Right.
Which is amazing to me because it's actually he works harder than the judge. Like people at fast food, like you don't realize how hard these people actually work. And that's what people with these cushy jobs, like, yeah, it took a lot of work, a lot of study to get through law school. And a lot of cost. I don't discount any of that. But still, it's like it's hard work, but it's a different kind of work. And it's because the guys that are working at Burger King and McDonald's are slaving away, man. They're breaking their back. They're over the hot grill every day, and dealing with shitty customers. Like there's probably this judge. This judge seems like he's probably going to be a super shitty customer. Like so, if you're working at that McDonald's, you don't want to run afoul of him. You know what I mean?
I just want to say the judge, if you're going to insult a bunch of fast food workers, when you go to the drive-thru, don't expect to have it your way.
I think that's really sort of the best lesson you can take from this. All right. Want to move on to the gun story?
Yeah, let's get some guns.
All right, let's talk about some gun safety. A gun safety PSA recently released by the Evolve group has gone viral on YouTube, and after you see it, you'll know why.
Did Kyle behave himself?
Oh, of course. There you go.
I'm so glad. Kyle, we gotta go. Mommy's got an appointment.
Taste my steel! Never!
Oh.
If they find it, they'll play with it. So always lock up your guns.
Look, I gotta say, man. First off, I actually really like this ad. It's pretty funny, and it grabs your attention because obviously there's fake penises in it. But hey, now its release was actually really good timing as well, because its release correlates to a couple of studies that were also just recently released. One of them, of course, one of these new studies was released by the journal Pediatrics, and it says that 20 children are hospitalized every day due to gun injuries, and nearly a third of those are accidents. Now, another report by Bloomberg's group, Every Town for Gun Safety, reported that at least 100 children were unintentionally killed just in 2013. Now, it was also timed with another study. It was also timed with the National Safety Month and, of course, the start of summer. Now, my opinion on this is that there's nothing controversial about this message. The group that created this ad, called Evolve, their slogan is, and you'll love this, it's the right to bear arms, not the right to be a dumbass. I love it. Co-founder Rebecca Bond talked to the Huffington Post and said that even though that they don't have a political position on gun control, that the group aims to motivate people to make behavior changes when it comes to firearms safety and responsibility. Now, she also said that we don't think safety is aside. Safety in the gun category should be inspiring. People should be inspired to make good choices, and safety should be cool. Now, okay, that's great. Using dildos is certainly a unique approach. I'm not sure if I'd call it cool, but more from Bond on that, Rebecca Bond. Quote, it presents it in a way that's humorous. It creates some levity for engaging someone in the conversation. When you start to talk about playthings and how you secure those things, it's an easier way into the conversation. You start to make people think. And so, let's be real about this. This is actually a really good conservative message. It's about personal responsibility. Lock up your guns. And it's amazing that we actually need ads like this designed to give levity to this situation, because so many people are scared to talk about gun safety for fear of being labeled a gun-gabbing liberal. Well, let me tell you, I've got a little personal anecdote. I worked at the conservation club when I was younger, when I was in high school. I would have been fired so fast if I didn't secure the weapons that I was in charge of, made sure that they were not loaded, they were on the rack, away from people, because that's how actual responsible gun owners deal with storing their guns. Now, right now we have people leaving them out, pointing them at people. There's that story last month, by the way, where an 11-year-old boy was shot in the head by his uncle that was showing off his laser sight. Hey, kid, let me show you my laser sight. By pointing it at his fucking head. Now, I would have been reamed so hard at the club if I even inadvertently pointed a gun anywhere but at the ground, unless the area was clear and I was ready to shoot. But it's not like that with most people today. People now are not at all mindful of what they do with their weapons. They don't respect them. And look, I'm glad that there is at least some group out there trying to do something to help teach common sense. If only there was a huge organization of gun owners whose mission was to teach firearm safety and responsibility. But instead, we have the fucking NRA that only cares about selling more guns and spreading fear. It's crazy. What do you think, Sean?
As far as the intent behind the ad, I think it's great. You're trying to raise public awareness and get people conscious of safety. The effectiveness, I'm not sure about, because it's a kid with a vibrator fighting a kid with a double donger. It's very hard. Like, when you said that it was a gun ad, even though I watched it before and we prepped for the show, I totally forgot when watching it, because I'm like, oh, is the rabbit, because one of those is a rabbit, for those of you out there, gonna beat the double donger? So it gets attention. I think it's better than those ads that show like a kid, like, you remember those old pot ads where the kid's like, I'm high, and then he takes his dad's gun out of the drawer. He's like, look, I'm invincible. I think it's more effective than that, because it's stupid.
Oh, definitely.
Doing stupid things, and but I think it's very. I did not get the message that these people were gun safety people. I got the message that these people were kind of had a sense of humor, and they had some message that might have been gun control or gun safety, but that was kind of lost on me. Even though it's clearly that your kids will get into your stuff, it's distracting. Look, I'm not gonna lie. And the mom's face, by the way, those were both hers, hilarious. That was like my favorite part of the ad.
Oh, definitely, and that was pretty hilarious. But you definitely get, like, I got the message right offhand. Like, you don't want your kids getting into things, because they're going to get into things, whether it be a double donger or a 357 Magnum, right? They're going to get into your stuff. So that's why, like, it's about securing personal possessions, right? Something like that is very personal and private, right? So you secure that away. You lock it away in a drawer or something like that, so you make sure your kids don't get to it. Well, why can't you do that with your gun? Because a gun is much... You're going to kill a lot more people with a gun than you are with a dildo. Unless, of course, you're playing Saints Row 3. Which, by the way, one of the weapons in there is the double donger.
Right. What I want to know is how many kids die every year because of double donger or rabbit-related incidents. We should get some numbers on that. No, but tactically, who's going to win that fight?
Oh,
but,
man.
No, all right. No, like, I gotta
that's a hard question.
Because one has the vibrating action. No, in all seriousness, like, don't leave sex toys anywhere where your kids can find them. Because I don't know if it's ever happened to you, Jeff, but I've had a student in my class bring them to school. Look what my parents have. You're a dumbass for bringing it, but hilarious. So yeah, don't do that. See, I'm getting the wrong message here again. But and obviously you should like the underlying message, whether it's muddled or not with the what was in the ad, is keep your guns safe. If you're going to be a gun owner, like, be a responsible gun owner. So I actually really like that. And
Right. Practice that personal responsibility and ensure that your guns are not accessible to children. And
Right.
it seems like so much like it should be absolute common sense. And you know, it should be, but we have so many issues, so many times of where people don't practice that common sense. And so it's once again, it's amazing that they have to release something like this to get people to think about it. Go, hey, you know what? Yeah, I don't want my kid finding my gun, and I certainly don't want my kid finding a double donger, right? So, I mean, both things, you want to lock them up because the kids are going to get into it, and at least, you know, the one thing that you can take away from this ad is that at least, you know, no child is going to die from finding finding a sex toy, but they do die when they find guns, or they have a better chance of doing so. And so, I mean, it's bringing light to an important situation and trying to send an important message. And hey, you know what? I applaud them for it. I think it's great.
Right. And always remember to lube up both your double dongers and your guns for a better performance.
Yep.
No, but in all seriousness, have a dildo safe. No, wait. In all seriousness,
we just got to end this right now.
No, in all seriousness, this ad was made to raise awareness, and the video went viral, and it was a good job.
That's right. It's got over 1 million views, so that's pretty awesome.
It achieved its goal to get. It will never air on TV ever, but it achieved its goal. Also, double donger.
All right. We go from something that's a little bit fun to something rather sad. It's going to be a quick story, a little bit of an update, I guess. Story's not quite social justice related, but I wanted to cover it anyway. Mark Mayfield, the Mississippi Tea Party vice chairman that was recently arrested in a bizarre case involving a plot to photograph Senator Thad Cochran's wife, who was in a nursing home receiving care, in order to use her picture for some sort of hit piece. Well, anyway, this bizarre story actually got a little sadder as Mark Mayfield recently took his own life after the re-election of Senator Senator Thad Cochran over Tea Party challenger Chris McDaniel, who he had backed. Now, according to the Clarion Ledger, the cause of the death was a gunshot wound to the head. Now, I can assume that the fact, you know, that some of the facts in this case, that he was going to a grand jury and the distancing of Chris McDaniel from him after this Thad Cochran stunt, which of course amazes me how far people will go. Still don't understand how taking a picture of somebody's bedridden wife could be used as some sort of political attack ad. But anyway, to me this seems like an obvious case of Mayfield being a bit troubled, a troubled individual. And look, man, it's a terrible thing when somebody ends their life, regardless of their politics. So, I just want to express sympathy to Mayfield's family and hope that they recover and heal. And so, that's a bit of a sad news. Do you have anything to add, Sean?
I mean, yeah, it's always tragic when somebody loses their life, especially if it's suicide. Like the circumstances around like the incident of photographing his wife were weird, and like we had issues with that, but we didn't want anybody to like die from the situation. And I didn't even remember like this guy's name entering the press. Like I don't remember coming across it, but I just want to send condolences to his family and all that. Like and don't kill yourself if you're out there, like for people in general.
Right. That's generally good advice. All right, Sean. Do you want to present them?
I just want to say, like call a hotline if you're troubled out there or something like that. You know what I mean? Right.
All right. So, Sean, do you want to present your social justice story, and then I'll come back and talk about robots.
Yeah, just okay. All right. I'm glad we didn't
You ready
present
for this?
this. I'm glad. Yeah, I'm ready to present it. I'm glad I didn't present this after the double donger story. But recently, the New York City comptroller settled a lawsuit with the quote unquote Central Park Five. These were five teenagers who, in 1989, were arrested for the rape of a 28-year-old woman in Central Park. Hence, the Central Park Five. It was a brutal crime, and the woman was beaten and all that. And all five men were convicted, or all five boys, they were underage, were convicted in 1990. And they served on average between 7 and 13 years. There's only one problem. None of these people committed the actual crime. And it turns out the NYPD kind of forced or coerced these confessions through long interrogations. And the person who did commit the crime was a serial rapist who it was later proven he confessed, and it was proven via DNA evidence that he was in fact the rapist. So the NYPD enforcing this confession also let an actual serial rapist out on the street for a very long time. Well, after a 10-year lawsuit, or a 12-year lawsuit, it was finally settled, and the Central Park Five have received a settlement of $41 million. The information about the DNA testing came out in 2002, and it took this long for them to get their settlement. So I just wanted to bring this story up and get Jeff's thoughts on it. Like, what do you think about one of the biggest New York City wrongful conviction settlements in history of the Central Park Five?
This is what happens all too often in our justice system, is that, police and our justice system will cut corners, right? And that's essentially what the NYPD did. They wanted to solve the case. They wanted to just get it done, get their convictions, and, bump up that conviction rate when it comes to, the lawyers and stuff like that, the prosecutors. And so they didn't look at the evidence. They didn't do any of that. And they let these people, these five young black men, I assume they're black.
Four of them were black, one of them was Hispanic.
Yeah, see, you let these four black men and one Hispanic man, all minorities, rot in jail for so long on a crime that they didn't do, that they were coerced into admitting to doing, while they let a serial rapist out there to victimize more women. But no, they're going to hang their banner and say, mission accomplished, for all that time. Now, I'm actually glad to see that there was actual justice in the story, but you can't replace those lost years with all that money. Now, $40 million is a good chunk. Imagine how much money the NYPD would have saved had they actually did their jobs and found the real rapist, instead of just spending the time trying to coerce these five young men into admitting to committing a crime that they didn't commit. It's gross injustice, and at the same time, they got a little bit of compensation for it. But right. I don't know if $40 million is a lot of money, but I would not trade 13 years of my life, or however long they were in prison for that kind of amount of money.
Especially when you're that young, to get 7 to 13 years when you're age 14 to 16, that's insane. Like it destroys your entire life. And like for people out there who are like, oh well, how come the victim didn't know if she was attacked by five people or one person? The victim was severely injured, and she had a very bad head injury during the incident. So like it's not the victim's fault at all. And like for all she knew, like these five people confessed to the crime, and like she was beaten severely and was unconscious. Like it seemed like it was reasonable. They confessed. The NYPD said we had them dead to rights, and the NYPD they interrogated them for hours. They never videotaped the interrogation. They only videotaped the confession. They lied to them, said that they had their fingerprints all over this woman, that they had them dead to rights, witnesses, everything. And they got these guys to sign confessions, and of course they try to recant 2 weeks later. But when you go to a jury trial and you have four black and one Hispanic, but he was four dark-skinned males who are accused of a horrible crime, to a 28-year-old white woman. I don't want to like talk negatively about the victim, but this is the parameters of the case. And you have confessions. Like, what are you supposed to do as a juror? But if you're the NYPD, like, there was DNA evidence on the scene. Like, maybe it wasn't a common practice for the NYPD to use DNA in 1989, 1990, but like, it existed. It was a high-profile case. Even if it wasn't common practice, it would seem like it would have been a good idea to go the extra mile, especially since we know that the police, go a little harder for these high-profile cases. So, it was a horrible crime, and unfortunately, the injustice did not end with what happened to this poor woman. These poor like teenagers. It ruined their lives, and 41
people. 6 people had their lives fucked up.
Right.
And because what? Because the NYPD wanted to save a little bit of time? Is that it? They just wanted to save time, solve a high-profile case, so they could get their fucking, congratulations. Oh, look at that! Good job, guys.
Right. And of course, like you're like, oh, horrible crime. Let me find the closest 4 minority people or 5 minority people in order to convict. By the way, it was proven in 2002 that they did not do this crime. Everybody served their full sentence at that point already.
Mm-hmm.
The maximum sentence was 13 years. It took 12 more years to get the settlement. So like, it's hard to go get some like moniker of justice. This was a 25-year process for these guys, and you took away their childhood, which they'll never get back. Even after they got out of prison, like, they never get back their reputation. Like, you ruined everybody's life involved. Like, the NYPD ruined almost everybody's life involved, because even the victim of the rape like feels bad for these kids. So it's just disgusting. And all of those rapes, like, even if all of those rapes that guy committed, the actual Reyes, the actual rapist committed, is on the NYPD, like, for not giving an honest investigation. That it was horrible.
Right. And you think that there's a little bit of I guess a little bit of racism involved, I think, in this, and like racial profiling when it comes to like, because as far as I know, the NYPD isn't exactly the most racially sensitive organization.
Right.
Okay, so calling them, saying that they're more of a racist organization isn't exactly coming out of nowhere because of this one case. Now, it's not like they don't have a fucking history of doing this kind of shit.
Oh, and like, it even seemed racist, their excuse for why they were fighting this lawsuit so hard. They fought this for 12 years. Almost every year of the Bloomberg term, they were fighting this case. And I understand the city of New York has to protect its own interests and wants to save money and all that. But like, Bloomberg, instead of saying it was a tragedy and it never should have happened, was like, well, they had cause to believe that these people did it. I'm like, no, but they didn't do it, and there was no evidence indicating, no witnesses, no nothing. It's not like witnesses saw 5 people attack a woman. It was one guy. It was one guy, and you arrested 5 people. Like, there was no cause for this. They wanted to wrap this case up quickly. It was a high-profile victim, and I feel horrible for the victim. It was a vicious crime. But I also feel horrible for these people wrongfully convicted. And it just goes to show you, you know how these so-called men's rights activists talk about wrongful rape convictions? When it's a wrongful rape conviction, it's usually not the victim responsible for the conviction. It's usually the police or somebody in the investigative side not doing their job. So
right,
it's a horrible case all around, and I'm glad some moniker of justice was served.
I think I can agree that there's at least some little piece of justice, but you can't get back the amount of time that these innocent men spent behind bars. I mean, you can't get that back, but you can get something. I hope that they can use that money, to create a good life for them, to get their life. I'm pretty sure they've got their life back on track, and I just hope, that they can. I mean, you can never really get over something like this, but I hope the best for them, going forward, man, because what happened to them, it shouldn't be allowed, and I hope the NYPD and I hope politicians in New York and the criminal justice system maybe can learn from this and say, hey, maybe we need to, at least, even if you look at it in just a fiscal sense, because it would have saved $40 million of damages plus court costs and all that stuff fighting this case for however long that they fought this case. It would have saved them money, and maybe they think, hey, maybe we'll do the smart thing and actually do our fucking jobs.
Right. And just two more quick anecdotes. One of these guys who served 7 years was 14 when convicted. I'm 23 now, so that's oh no, that's not exactly 7 years, but that's around that time. I can't imagine losing 14 to 14 to 21 of my life. Like, and technically part of the settlement was that the New York City did not admit any fault in this case. It's a $41 million settlement. They were at fault.
Absolutely. All right. Now we go from a little bit of justice on a really just terrible case. We go from that to our final story of the night. We're going to try to end it on a little bit of a crazy note, a little bit of a fun note. We're going to make fun of this Republican crazy guy. So stay tuned for the last story, huh? There are robots among us, and they're running for office. That's according to failed Republican primary candidate Timothy Ray Murray. Now, Murray recently ran in the Oklahoma primary against fellow Republican Frank Lucas, who may or may not be a robot. And if he is a robot, he obviously can't win a Republican primary because, as we all know, robots are unqualified for public office. His evidence? Murray claims that Representative Lucas was executed by the World Court in Ukraine on or around January 11th, 2011. Wow, that's incredibly specific. Now, he said, on television, they were depicted as being executed by the hanging about the neck until death on a white stage and in front of witnesses. He also stated that while it is possible to use look-alike artificial or man-made replacements, such replacements are not human and therefore ineligible to serve in office. This went crazy fast. Now, one of his campaign promises was he's promised to never use an artificial intelligence look-alike to voice what the representative's office is doing, nor would he ever own a robot look-alike. I don't know. Look, I've called a lot of Republicans crazy, because some of the stuff they actually believe in, or they say they believe in, but this guy's actually mental. And somehow, he still received 5% of the vote. It takes all kinds to be in the Republican Party these days. And look, this is where I have to plug the importance of universal mental health care. And look, he's a Republican, so he probably doesn't believe in that. But if you think your opponent is a robot, and therefore you've actually won your primary election, then you're either nuts or you're a fucking genius for finding a technicality. And who knows? Maybe Murray might actually try and save us from the coming robot apocalypse. A little bit of tongue-in-cheek. Sean, take it away.
Well, I mean, to be fair to this guy, technically, or to be unfair to this guy, I'm not exactly sure. Technically, I'm pretty sure part man, part machine is called a cyborg, not a robot. Or maybe it's an android. So, we got to get that out of the way first because that's obviously the most important issue here. But this is actually symptomatic of a disorder called Cape Grass the Cape Grass delusion, which basically people think that people in their lives are replaced by body doubles, which I actually found pretty interesting. But
that is interesting.
I'm surprised he didn't go with the reptilians. That's a more popular conspiracy than the Terminator robots are taking over. He was a lizard, and the reason he survived his hanging is because lizards can't be strangled. Scientific fact. That's just the way it is. But this is weird, like really, really weird. And this guy got 5% of the vote, and I'm not gonna lie, I think if he would have came out with this strategy beforehand, he probably could have got around 8% of the vote. Because who doesn't like hearing about robots?
You know, the what is it, the Cape Grass disorder, right? Where you think everybody's been replaced by robots.
Yeah.
Kind of an interesting strategy to try and win, to try and invalidate your opponent. It's kind of ingenious. It's kind of hilarious. I'm not quite sure what else to say about this guy.
Well, I mean, his opponent actually, the accused robot actually released a statement, and basically he denied being a robot. He also said if he was a robot, then people should remember a robot may not injure a human being or through direct action or inaction. Number 2, a robot must obey orders given by a human being, except if those orders conflict with the first law. And number 3, a robot must protect its own existence as long as such does not conflict with the first or second law of robotics.
Well, there you go.
That's
and as far as
that's Asimov's
Asimov's rules, yeah. Yep,
Hilarious.
I'm familiar. I do have one more thing actually to say about this. Sort of my final point. I'm pretty sure Obamacare covers treatment for Cape Grass syndrome. I'm just saying.
I'm pretty sure that in like 3 days, somebody will have the conspiracy theory that Obama is in fact the robot.
Oh, I've already seen the posters. Where like there's, the Hope poster, but like half of Obama's face is actually like Terminator face. You haven't seen that before?
Oh, no.
I wish I had that. I wish I had that. I'd pull that up.
But they're gonna show clips from his first debate versus Mitt Romney of him going as like a malfunction video, like put a little smoke coming out of his ears, and that would be a thing.
What's funny is like Mitt Romney was always the one that was that people were like, he's a robot. That's kind of funny.
It's gonna be Obamatron.
Obamatron. All right. Like I said, ending on a super goofy note. That was kind of a fun story. So I wanted to end on a lighter
one
note
more
with
thing.
all of our-
If you're part of the 5% who voted for this guy, how dumb do you feel right now?
Unless, of course, you do believe in the coming robot apocalypse from Skynet.
What if he is a robot and he's actually projecting that onto his opponent, like we've seen with Republicans in the past?
See, you're getting 2 layers deep. 2 layers deep. You don't want to go there.
By the way, we had an interview a long time ago where I asked the question to a gay rights activist, would he be in favor of robot rights? And Jeff didn't think that was relevant for our audience, but seems relevant now. Can they run for Congress?
I don't know, like pretty soon we'll be having according to Sean, pretty soon we'll be having a discussion on should robots have the same rights as gay people? Find out in this debate. All right, anyway, enough of that. We're wrapping up the show. I want to thank you guys for watching here on the live stream, watching TYT Community, the social justice show. Make sure to tune in to next week, Thursday night, for the News and Politics Hour, hosted by myself. Next week, Friday, is, of course, Independence Day, July 4th, so we will be taking the day off because Sean and I are both lazy Americans who would rather sit there and grill and watch fireworks.
Or blow up fireworks ourselves.
Or blow up fireworks. So, we'll be off on next Friday, but don't worry, we'll have a great show for you ready on Thursday, and we'll be back the following week for the normal time, so make sure to tune in for that. I want to thank you guys again for tuning into the live stream. If you like this video, please like it, and look out for the clips if you just want to show some standalone clips or share them. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate you guys watching the show. If you want links and stuff to our coming shows, if you always want to find out what's going on in the TYT Nation, please like our Facebook page, and that's facebook.com/TYT Nation. Follow me at Jeff's Politics on Twitter, if you're on the Twitter, and at TYT Community. I run both accounts. And if you want to support the show, subscribe, or become a Patreon member and financially support the show. Set up however much you want to pay to help us continue to be independent and to continue to bring the show twice a week and maybe bring you the show more often. We'd definitely like to expand in doing more shows per week, which would be awesome. So, that's pretty much it.
And I just wanted to say, support your local Mexican firework makers next Independence Day.
If you're American.
But not your Chinese. Seriously, we import the fireworks that we blow up from like Mexico and China.
I know, right? Oh, one more thing. If you guys are interested in being on the panel and with us, let us know. Tweet me, Facebook me, email me, jeffw@tytnetwork.com, so you could be on the panel, chatting with us, hanging out. We welcome everybody on the panel. As long as as long as you're a good person, man, as long as you got something to say, you're welcome to be on the panel. So we're looking forward to getting more people on. Hopefully, we'll eventually get Lizette Padilla from Lip TV. We're hoping to get her on soon. So stay tuned for that. And everybody, you guys have a fantastic weekend. We'll see you next week. You take care. Say goodbye, Sean.
Secure your double dongers.
And that's an important PSA from Sean.
Night, guys.
Secure your double dongers. And from TYT Community, I'm Jeff Waldorf. Have a good night.